Thank you, Jane.
Sounded like Siri.
Yeah.
I'll just plug this in case I get disconnected. Okay, I'll try not to waffle.
No,
I hate it when I
waffle
get
away,
recording.
waffle away. Don't change anything. It's just that it's
Okay.
available then.
All right. So this is, for the sake of the recording, this is my beautiful work today. As you can see, I didn't do it, and I made a decision not to do any work this morning, but to do it here in class. So this is my scrap album that I use for my art for each chapter of the Bible. So my plan is, as say, for example, yesterday, I had obviously very short of time yesterday, so I just used someone else's art. Didn't alter it at all, but I put the writing down here because of the subject matter that seemed to be proper, and I did a heart shape because it was about love. So that was yesterday. So I'm planning to do writing on this side and a picture on that side. Very traditional. I find that if I do a routine, a try and keep to continuity, it helps, you know, the limitations themselves push the creativity. The more you limit yourself, the more you have to be creative with the limited resources. So I'm looking for a picture here. Now I need to go to the passage. The passage in question is 1 Kings 4. I've made a decision that it's kingdom. I'm very excited by this because last week, where is it? Irene, not far away, under this lot. Blair's, yep, here it is. Oops. Here it is. This is where we started. Last week, Irene brought this verse, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. When we looked it up in John 18:36, we found out that this is Jesus speaking after he's been arrested, presumably with lots of people listening. Quite an intimidating situation. It's not the sort of thing you can rehearse. But he said, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. And we spent last week, oh, I hate this. Sorry, I've got something turned up on my computer. Later, go away. Go away. No, it's not going away. Remind me tomorrow. There we are. Where was I? Yeah. Yes. We spent last week saying to ourselves, how would we make a picture of kingdom to remind us of this verse? How could you possibly do a picture of something which isn't an object? Or is it an object? But how, I mean, we each have a different concept of what kingdom looks like. But I was very excited to find that my passage today is a very, very exciting place in the Bible. Right, I'll just give you a synopsis, if I can, of chapter 4. Solomon has taken control of his kingdom, and after he's got rid of all the wicked people, he sets up a huge bureaucracy. He's got governors. It explains what governors are for. That was new learning for me. There's obviously ambassadors coming from other nations to come and listen to him. And he's got a historian. He's got priests at the top. That's another interesting thing, because I'm watching Tudor Kingdoms, or I have been watching Tudor Kingdom, and a lot of the wordage, like court and their obsession with all different things, including the church, sort of seems relevant. It seems to me as though earthly kingdoms like to model themselves on this prototype, which I believe Solomon must have been the first of something, to produce something which the earth had never seen before. And chapter 4 basically spells out what this kingdom is like. So we're looking at an earthly kingdom. And this is exciting for me because it's a one-off. I don't think it happens anywhere else in the Bible. So to me, I'm having to say, what would my picture look like? This is the best example of an earthly kingdom. that we could imagine. I'll give you some key verses. Let me read verse 24. Oh no, I'll read verse 21 and then 24 and 25. The people of Judah and Israel were very contented with plenty to eat and drink. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms, and they gave a list of that. In verse 24, Solomon's dominion extended over all the kingdoms west of the Euphrates River, and that repeats. And there was peace on all his borders during the lifetime of Solomon. Hey, Solomon! Oh my goodness, we are treated to Solomon's presence today. I am so excited by that, Solomon. Your namesake. Did you need to find out all about what Solomon was up to, what he was about? Anyway, during the lifetime of Solomon, all of Judah and Israel lived in peace and safety. This is my favorite verse of my favorite sentence of the whole chapter. Listen to this. And from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, each family had its own home and garden. Each family had its own home and garden. So when you shared, Eleanor, your birds, I'm just thinking, yes, it's the same theme. We're in the same place, you know. You would go for birds, probably, you know, and I'm thinking, well, what else is in the passage? So I did a list of the things that I'm interested in. These are my interests, right? So they all lived in peace and safety. Each family had its own home and garden. I liked, there was quite a lot on her horses and stabling and provision for the horses to have best fodder. I like that. There was a lot of emphasis on documenting. So I presume lots of books. There's a lot of emphasis on proverbs and songwriting. So you linked up there as well, gardens and songs. If you want that verse, it's, and maybe I'll read on, verse 29. God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding and knowledge as vast as the sands of the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan, blah, blah, blah. His fame spread throughout all the surrounding nations. He composed some 3,000 proverbs and wrote 1,005 songs. He could speak with authority about all kinds of plants, from the great cedar of Lebanon to the tiny hyssop that grows from cracks in a wall. He could also speak about animals, birds, small creatures, and fish. And, last verse, kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon. That's what I've got as my raw material for today. So I have to prioritize. This is my raw material. I got to choose now what I go for. I've advanced myself by already getting the word kingdom. I've got it. It is there somewhere. I want music in this. It has to be about music. This can go now, I think. This is up. Sometimes I miss a page. I've got to be careful I'm in the right place. Yeah. I was thinking music would be nice. That references, you know, all his composing. I guess you had to have that recorded. Do you agree? It wouldn't have just been from memory, would it? I don't know. But that could be a start point for me. So that could be raw material that would develop art. Also, I love the cedar tree. I'm really into the cedar tree, and it popped up a few weeks ago. I've got 3 images of cedars. That has to go away for a minute. Hopefully it's down here somewhere. Where I've lost my cedars. Here they are. Here they are. Yeah. So, I have 3. 1, 2, and I'm dropping things now. Doing that today. I think I need to slow down here. I'm going too quick. Put that up there. Slow it down, Jane. Right. My sister has been using old music scores for art for years. And I said, oh, I'd love to try that. So my kind sister actually put this through the post. I've used the front page already, but today I made a new discovery, which is if I start in the middle and snip the binding, because it's old, then I've got double page spreads, which is more useful to me. So now I'm thinking, well, I've got the whole book to choose from. Let's choose writing that might correspond. And I chose, and I thought, oh my goodness, we're talking about kingdom. And this one says, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll have that. But then I thought I won't use it on there because I was going to do one with you all. So I would work bigger and maybe use that page. So I obviously haven't done anything, so I can't do a big one yet. I haven't done the first one. And that brings me to another point, which is the pictures I've shared on the WhatsApp. The first one is the surfboard picture, and that is appropriated art. It's the art of other people. I think it's one piece from another person. And then by the time I get to church, I can't do that. I can't collage and appropriate art. I think all the time I have to do original, which is harder, isn't it? It's more risky. But so at church, I can't do appropriated art. I'm actually letting something evolve out of what I've done from appropriated art. And that's a good way to go, I think, because you don't get your ideas bursting until you've sort of looked what your raw material is. You start assembling raw material, your ideas start flowing, and then you know exactly what you would do if you had the time to actually do an original piece of work. So back to my 3 cedars. I've got my 3 cedars here. I had this all saved because one day I really want to do art on a cedar tree. But before I cut anything up, I always look on the back to see if there's something even more important on the back that I don't want to. And I like this. This is important because this is someone else's art. This is someone else's photograph, but this is someone else's illustration, and it's different. First of all, it's black and white, and it's someone else's pattern making. Someone else has worked in a decorative way to get it through a publisher and get it onto a book. So this art is a cedar tree that has been, what can you say? It's stylized. And there's time for stylization and also simplification, and it especially lends itself for printing. So this is really hard work to copy. It's always easier to copy someone's illustration because they've cut out all the surplus, they've cut out the house or whatever was behind that cedar tree because they want to promote just the cedar tree there in that image. In fact, we've got sheep under it, so it's probably symbolic as well. Okay, so I look at the back of this one. I love this one because it's in a garden. Don't want the building though, and that's hard work to cut all that out. I'm not sure I want to use it. I wonder whether I could use the jelly print to get an image off that. I think that would be my best way to go, jelly print it, and then I can get rid of all this topiary. But on the back, I've got this. And you know what? This is even more important. I'll tell you why. Because when I was doing my research for Solomon this morning, he wrote 2 Psalms, and the 2 Psalms he wrote were 72, which I call Glory, and 127, which I call Work or Build. And this is an architect with an architect's plan. And what we are doing is preparing for the build of the temple. And what I learned from that is that, you know, when we turn the page, we're going to have the instructions for building the temple. But before the temple gets built, peace has to be established. And I'm starting, you know, to buzz now. I'm really getting excited. That's here. And guess what? He is going to be our next king. I'll read what it says. Architect Craig Hamilton confers with Prince Charles on barn renovations in Herefordshire, blah, blah, blah. He's showing that eco-friendly, preservation-minded operation can turn a profit and protect Britain's rural heritage. You see, I like the serendipity of that. That's on the back of something I want. But that adds to it, because tomorrow we're looking at God as an architect, probably. I don't know yet, I haven't read it. But today I'm still interested. I think I might have to photocopy that to use this, if I'm going to use it, but it's too big anyway. And I can't see how these two can go together. I have no idea how I could maybe get a printed image of that and press it onto the music. I don't know. So I think probably we're not going to solve the problem now. I'm going to have to go for a walk, mull it over, be distracted, and hopefully be able to put something up on the WhatsApp when I have resolved it. But that's as far as I can go now. A little bit more about the writing. So that might not be the right writing, that might be too big, but I'd keep everything fluid until the main structures are resolved. The structures being the layer, the base, the choice of location. If I'm really, really desperate to get something down, I will bypass that first stage, because that will just have to get stuck wherever it belongs later. The second stage is what you stick on, what you apply to it, whether it's appropriated or original. Something like this, I think, is easier to get away with because of copyright issues will be less, especially since it's probably 100 years old, that piece of paper. And then the third would be any additions and text. And that's why I wanted to do my surfboard picture first, was because to show whether it means anything if you don't put the text on, whether you can get any meaning out of it, or whether it's okay for everybody to make up their own meaning. How are we doing for time? Oh, there we are. One last thing about text. I looked everywhere for a joined up word called kingdom, because this was hard work having to look for that. So I looked in this because I save everything. This is a calendar. Yeah, I can show you the rest. I made a mistake, actually. Where's the front? Oh, I don't know where the front was. Okay, that's the back. Oh, it's probably like that. Yeah, okay. So yes, I would say that probably joined. Yes, it definitely did. Oh, can you see that? I'll put it up here. Get that away. Right. You see that? Yeah, that joined. And I needed to isolate this because it was too big. So I've cut it off. And this is my sort of word, my word container for joint words. I looked all the way through here, a cursory read of all of it, to look for the word kingdom. It's not mentioned once. That's interesting, isn't it? Why? I can't find the word kingdom anywhere there. So obviously that's not her interest. The artist is passionate, and her light is showing on something which isn't what my light showing on, you know. So between us, hopefully we make a whole picture. But her stuff is very relational. I guess mine is a little bit more historic, I don't know. But this side is not wasted because I've now got a new opportunity to make a book. And as a what I was going to do with the work we're going to delay for next time is the crenellations. I now think are worth saving. That's what I want to share next time, is instead of appropriating someone's art, appropriating your resources and making them say something like, can you make that? You know, if that's ripped off, I actually did do it. Here, I think I will quickly mention this, because if we're talking kingdom, see, I've run out of these things. I absolutely love this for pattern making. And that's not what I wanted, because I don't think it sort of does castle, because my idea for kingdom is a castle. That one works better. But I don't want to waste this because I use this for gluing. But so I ripped up one piece. I found some on here. So I ripped a page off and becomes that. I have to then start thinking about scale. So I've ended up with St. Mary's Church. And yeah, I've made that a bit bigger because I cut it in the wrong place. You know, so St. Mary's Church is much easier done like that than the way I did it the week before. And then I just plonk a tree in front. That would work as art, but all I would have to think about then is layer one, what colours behind St. Mary's? Is St. Mary's going to be light or dark? Depending on item 3, which is the tree, not a cedar tree, but say this is item 3. What colour is the cedar tree? So I maybe have to think the other way around. If say I'm going to do blossom on this tree, and that's going to be light, it has to be like for your birds, Eleanor, snow, you've got snow, not blossom, right? So maybe it's a white front. So how I need to contrast the white with dark. So what is the complementary colour for the light? And is it going to be showing on the background or the church? But that also gives me an opportunity for what we call counter change, which is the same in music, I think, where you do the opposite of what's expected. So you do it in one pattern, which is your rule, and then you just slightly reverse it somewhere. So I'll hopefully be able to talk more about that another time. So they're basically art techniques, aren't they? But instead of using paintbrushes and wasting paint, you're learning it in a much quicker, easier way. But it's the same principles. Any questions?
I don't have a question, Jane. It makes a lot of sense. And it's something that it makes so much sense, but you don't often see or do. And it's a bit like, oh.
Yes.
And I understand the layering concept because all digital art is about layers.
Yeah.
So everything that I do for church is made up of layers.
Yes.
And I'm very mindful of layers when I'm doing that, because usually it's got text on it. And what I have to be thinking about what color the text is. Do I want it to stand out or do I want it to complement? So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, but seeing you bring together all the resources to turn a blank page into something that speaks.
Yes.
It's very powerful. And I think it goes back to what Eleanor did with the cards. It's using something that's there and adding another layer to it, or 2 or however many, to make that that image speak what you want it to speak, really. Yeah.
Like there's the surfboard. So it's the same principle all the time, but the colours are determined by the complements to reveal the focal point. Yeah. Yeah. So why am I just showing that? Yeah. So St. Mary's Church was a development of this, playing with this idea of the crenellations. So my printmaking would probably be based on how you show kingdoms, because why do churches have that on them? You know, are they pretending to be castles? I don't know. Anyway, I'm done here.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. There's even in my little piece here, the kind of amount of thought about the colour or what would make it really speak.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, the focal point is the key thing. You
yeah,
choose your main point. It's the same when you're speaking, isn't it? What is it you're trying to say? And make sure everything else is knocked back from competition.
yeah, yeah.
And then it's clear and it's simple.
Yeah.
So in art, visual art, and this is what we're recorded, I'll be careful. When I share with others, and it is a successful method, you can choose in your landscape, you choose your focal point, say it's a person on the beach, and that has the highest level of contrast between, say, a tonal 0 and a really dark 7 or 5, whichever is your darkest tone. And so all your landscape has to be tonally sort of orchestrated, in which case, if your focal point is 0, then you want the highest contrast behind it. So you have to put a 7 behind it. And then everything else has to be in between it and not competing. So it's actually quite mathematical. You can have interest points in other places of the landscape, but if you put too many focal points, it just becomes cluttered. In fact, when you look on a landscape and you get a beam of sunlight, a sun's ray, which someone told me was a Jacob's ladder, it points to one place in the landscape, and that's what we're doing. We don't have to be obvious with the sun's ray. We're just using tone and colour. I hope that helps. So for next time, when we meet, we haven't got a date yet. It could be a few weeks away, because we're breaking up for Easter now. I'm hoping to resolve my problem. And if anyone wants to try an earthly kingdom picture with a breakthrough in it somehow, don't know. Solomon, he's breaking through. There's a trumpet breaking through. Then, yeah, see if you can get a 1 Kings 4 rendition, and maybe we'll deconstruct my kingdom offerings.
Okay, yeah. It's a great subject.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially, well, you've got the Messiah there, you know, we'll be hearing a lot of the Messiah.
Yeah.
Over Easter, won't we? It's always just so powerful.
And it takes us right back to Irene's share about the kingdom of what Jesus said when he was arrested. The kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. How you would show that. But gardens, you see, that was what I was going to say, Home and Gardens. There's even a magazine called Home and Gardens.
Yes.
You see, nothing's original. I reckon they don't know they've called it Home and Gardens because they want it to be Solomon's perfect location. It's kingdom stuff. It's all kingdom stuff. Gardens, paradise. It's all kingdom stuff. It's all showing something that hasn't happened yet.
Great.
Yeah, enjoy. Do some kingdom gardens.
Oh. Thank you.
I
feel privileged to have been attending today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane. I I love the bit that you used Handel's Messiah, because it's sort of it challenges me, because my background in the natural. Thank you, Solomon, for putting the spotlight on me.
He's spotlighting. Oh, that proves he's listening. See, Solomon, well done. He's listening. We like it.
Because everything is you keep, but you don't actually use.
Yeah.
And I fight that all the time, because I think God wants us to use things.
Yes.
And not just keep them, or indeed chuck them. You know, there's two extremes, isn't there?
Yeah.
But I just like the fact that even using that manuscript is so powerful to speak kingdom.
Yes.
You know, even this morning, I think it was this morning, was it yesterday? I often have classical radio on in the car, because I don't have a digital. It's an old car, so I don't have digital radio. And I just love driving across the common on Fairwood with just the classical music playing, because it helps me breathe.
Yes, I agree. I use it to stress reduce.
Just really de-stress. And it was sorry,
He's the birds now.
It was a thing from that they were singing. I can't speak now because I've got so distracted.
Yeah,
he does have something that he wants to share. He's come back to share. So come on. You do want to share.
Yes, you do, Solomon. Come on, you're full of knowledge.
Okay, can you see?
Oh, ooh, fish. Are there fish there?
Yes.
No, hills. Sorry, I've missed it.
No,
one fish.
You got it spot on, Jane.
There's one.
I have. Oh, you can see the water's so clear, and the sun is shining, and a few clouds are out, but you can still see into the water. Yeah.
Well, these are actually trees. These are trees, and the fish is made out. Here's the fish. It's made out. What's it made out of, Solomon? Ivy.
Oh.
You know what that's telling me is that children see these things so much clearer, which is you're looking at one kingdom and you see another.
Here we are, Solomon. So yeah, he started off drawing these trees even before you started sharing about the cedars. He had already done these trees, and then he said to me, Mama, how do I draw ivy? So these are, if I would help if I spotlight it. There we go.
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
So yeah, there's an image within an image.
I love it. That is such a good way to go. That would be good for kids' breakthrough. Yeah.
Yeah.
An image in an image.
Kingdom in a kingdom.
Yes. I love it.
Well
it would be good for you to turn that draft into art. My hearing aid's coming out. You know, it is art. Oh, I'm all coming undone here. Are we still recorded? As I'm
it's fine.
My hearing aid's really coming out. I have to put it back in.
Do you mind if I leave now?
Yes.
I've got to go and do a little job to do with the marriage registers. And
thank you. Our time has gone, but thank you so much, Jane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, Eleanor. I'll end the recording.
Yes.